We're here in Woodbury, Minnesota, where there's a major project just finishing up in a homeowners association, a lot of exterior work, and in charge was Minnesota Exteriors. I'm going to talk with John Geis and with Mark Adams from MEI right here on the HOA Leadership Network. Here today with Mark Adams from Minnesota Exteriors on the HOA Leadership Network. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
As I look around this neighborhood, you've done a lot of work. Can you tell me a little bit about how long you've been on site and what you've done?
This is a project that started with a hailstorm back in May of 2022. We came in, the association had already filed a claim, and they had approval on their roof and gutters. We've worked with their insurance company throughout the process and got them approved on siding. And then we also did some upgrades with their brick to stone. We offered their unit owners opportunity to replace their windows while we were doing their siding. So it's been a big process, a lot of trades happening here. From HVAC to electrical, siding, roofing, soffit, fascia.
What was the total time frame here?
Well, the roofs probably took about a month and a half. We did those last summer. We paused, took a break during the winter. The association didn't want any work going on in the winter. And then we hit the ground running this spring with the siding project. There's a lot more moving parts in the siding project. We started June 1st, and we just finished hanging the siding on the last building. The stonework's following, electrical and gutters, but we should be wrapped up in about a month here.
I think a lot of the board members who might be watching us today are interested in your communications process. So this is a big project, a lot of buildings, a lot of homeowners. How did you communicate with them to let them know what was going on?
So yeah, we had 96 units out here in 14 buildings, 2 different building types, so 8-unit buildings and 4-unit buildings. We worked with their property management company to send out email blasts. We send out our production schedule and expected time frames of when they could expect us to be there. Now, we always have a good plan, but we know that always changes. We send out updates as much as we can update the plans. Prior to start on any of the buildings, we posted notices on everybody's garage door that we were going to be starting work in the next 2 to 3 days to give them a heads up. We let them know the areas that we needed control over and our work hours. And we did weekly updates to the board as far as progress and what was happening in the project.
You know, I'm really interested in a project of this size. How do you manage the teams? Like, how many people are on site doing work, and how do you make sure everything's getting done to your satisfaction?
We had an on-site field supervisor out here every day. He had 6 crews out here doing different trades, but we were able to keep that all controlled and not having guys work on top of each other. Ran into some extra work along the way. when you start tearing into things, you find stuff you didn't know was there.
Well, say a little bit more about that. Obviously, there's surprises on any project. What did you run into?
When we tore off the existing siding, we found out that it had sheetrock for exterior sheathing without any house wrap. So 30 years later, we found a lot of sheeting that needed to be replaced. And then when we got up into the gables, the original construction plan had 24-inch spacing on the studs up into the gables. The walls were 16-inch on center, then they went to 24 in the gables. Any siding that we install now has to have 16-inch spacing on the fasteners, so we had to pull all that sheetrock off and replace it with OSB.
So you run into those surprises. What's the process? Do you go back to the property manager who communicates to the board? What's that process?
We had direct contact with the board president here. This is a bit of a unique situation. The board president is in the construction field himself. He's a project manager for a national GC. So I communicated with him directly, but I always looped in the property manager, so that way when people came to them with questions, they knew what was happening.
Mark Adams from Minnesota Exteriors. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, now talking with John Geis from Minnesota Exteriors. So it's a multi-generational family-owned business in Minnesota. Tell me about Minnesota Exteriors, John.
Yeah, so Minnesota Exteriors, we're like you said, a family-owned business. We've been around since 1947, so we've got 77 years in the industry. Our office is located over in Osseo, Minnesota. So we do everything on the exterior of the homes. So we have roofing, siding, stone, windows, soffit, fascia, and gutters.
There's a lot of competition, right, in Minnesota with what you offer. What makes you very special, and what do you think that customers would find to be very unique with Minnesota Exteriors?
Yeah, I think the big thing that sets us apart from our competitors is that we're actually 3 companies. So it's Minnesota Exteriors Commercial, and then North Country Distribution. So the big thing there is having that distribution company. We actually own our own lumber yard, which allows us to buy products direct, which allows us to offer better pricing to our clients and also a better selection.
With Minnesota being one of the highest hail damaged states in the United States, you've probably been pretty busy with roofing, correct?
Yes, yeah, we have very busy with roofing, and that's another nice thing with having that distribution center. When you get these big storms, you see a lot of local lumber yards that get depleted with materials, so it starts dragging these lead times out. Because we have our own material in stock in our yard and can control that whole process, we're able to keep a steady flow of materials coming and keep those timelines cut short.
So I understand that Minnesota Exteriors has a large showroom. How can we take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's one of the really nice things with our operation is we do have a really large showroom in Osseo. It's always nice for boards after that initial meeting to figure out what they're looking for, is then to get the board to come into the office and we can sit down and go through a design in the boardroom where we can actually get a 3D model of the buildings, pull it up on our big screen, and start putting different materials on the buildings. And then from there, we can walk out into the showroom and get a first-hand look at how those materials look.
Obviously, a project takes a lot of coordination, and once you're done, what's the service sort of after the fact? Project is wrapped up. What happens next?
That's the nice thing with Minnesota Exteriors is, it's one thing to get the project on the wall, but then the next part is servicing that for the life of the material. Mm-hmm. And that's where we stand apart from other companies, is that we're going to be around. We do have a full-time service department, so we have I think right now 6 or 7 service technicians. So if anything comes up, whether it's related to our products or maybe it's something else and you need to have someone come out and look at it, you can just give us a call. We'll send out a service tech and they can fix the issue right there.
All right, John Geis, thank you for joining us from Minnesota Exteriors. Remember to join the HOA Leadership Network and stay up to date on HOA topics. Go to our website and join today. It's free. I'm Mark Foster on the HOA Leadership Network.